Hello to the sound effects team. Your team will be the icing on the cake. Your team will add sound effects to the soundbite for the podcast. One of the cool things about storytelling is that finding ways to bring the story to life is a huge part of the process, and it enhances the listener's experience. What you all will do is listen to the soundbite a couple times with a pencil and paper in hand, writing down the sound effects you think would be a good idea to add to the soundbite. I will have a small library of sound files to choose from, and if there's something you think of that's not in the sound library that I have, if you think it's enough time, maybe it's something you can record with a field recording mic and incorporate into your session. It will be important that everyone mutually decides what sound effects should be included. So once you all make your list of sounds, briefly talk to each other to narrow down the final sounds you all decide as a group you want to incorporate. There needs to be one team member functioning as the sound engineer who will create a session to add the sound effects. The sound engineer will first import the podcast soundbite into their session, and from there you'll add a new track for each sound effect. You all will be working together to make sure you place the sound effects at the appropriate points in the story, or the soundbite. Be mindful of the audio levels. You don't want one sound barely audible and another sound overpowering everything. When you export, you'll be exporting 2 tracks. One track will be with everything all together, the soundbite and all the sound effects in their appropriate positions. And then the second track will be where you mute the soundbite and export the session with only the sound effects. So it will become one track with all the sound effects in their appropriate places. We'll do this so that the executive production team has some options when piecing everything together. Helpful suggestions. Whether you decide to incorporate 1 or 20 sounds, think about the 40 minutes you have available to you to complete this and export it to hand off to the executive production team. Also, keep in mind, just because we can use every sound available, it doesn't always mean it will enhance the story. We don't want to exhaust the listener's ears with a whole bunch of different sounds, or even 5 sounds all at the same audio level. For the team sound engineer, it may be helpful to make sure to have the start of the imported soundbite at like the 1 or 2 mark in your session. Working together and being willing to compromise will make your team's experience more enjoyable.